Space is entirely hostile to human life. It is a freezing, radioactive vacuum where the temperature can drop to minus 270 degrees Celsius. Without specialized gear, a human wouldn't last a minute out here. Down here on the surface, we step outside every day without giving it a second thought. We don't need to wear a pressurized suit because we are already living inside one. The Earth itself acts as a massive, multi-layered spacesuit, shielding us from the deadly universe. To understand how rare this is, look at our closest neighbors. Venus has a thick atmosphere, but its dense clouds trap heat in a runaway greenhouse effect. That makes it a 464 degrees Celsius oven, hot enough to melt lead. Mars effectively lost its suit. Its atmosphere is 100 times thinner than Earth's, leaving it a freezing, barren world of dry rock and ice. Of all the planets we've observed, Earth is the only one that survived the cosmic lottery. It possesses the exact combination of physical and chemical gear required to keep its crew alive. Our planetary spacesuit starts with its physical shape. While it looks like a perfect sphere from a distance, the Earth is actually an oblate spheroid. Because it spins, the planet bulges at the equator and is slightly flattened at the poles. This map shows the inner solar system, and that highlighted band is the habitable zone, or the Goldilocks zone. This is the range of distances from a star where the temperature is just right for water to exist as a liquid, neither evaporating into steam nor freezing solid. Notice how Earth's orbit through this zone is nearly circular. This consistent distance from the sun ensures we don't experience extreme temperature swings as the seasons change. Sitting in the right spot is required for liquid water, but it's only the first step. A habitable world still requires active, dynamic shields to survive the constant bombardment from the sun. Deep underground, thousands of kilometers beneath our feet, the movement of liquid iron in Earth's outer core acts like a massive dynamo. This churning metal generates a powerful dipole magnetic field that stretches far out into space. Those lines are an invisible shield deflecting the solar wind, a stream of highly charged particles blasted from the sun, along with high-energy cosmic rays. While the magnetic field handles charged particles, a different layer handles light. High up in the stratosphere is the ozone layer. Ozone is a molecule made of 3 oxygen atoms, and it functions as a specialized filter. It absorbs harmful ultraviolet radiation from the sun, preventing them from damaging the DNA of living cells. If the magnetic field failed, the solar wind would eventually strip away our breathable air, and if the ozone layer vanished, UV rays would irradiate everything alive on the surface. All of this protects the lithosphere, the solid outer crust where we actually live. If you imagine the Earth as the size of an apple, this rocky crust is proportionally as thin as the apple's skin. It makes up only about 1% of the planet's total volume. Hugging this thin crust is our atmosphere. Most of it is nitrogen and oxygen, but a tiny fraction consists of trace gases like carbon dioxide and methane. Even though they make up a microscopic percentage of the air, their job is critical. Here we can see how the natural greenhouse effect works. Sunlight strikes the surface and warms it. As the Earth releases that heat back toward space, these trace gases act like a thermal blanket. They absorb the radiation and keep the planet at a comfortable global average temperature of 15 degrees Celsius. Without this delicate thermal lining, that average temperature would plunge to minus 18 degrees Celsius. The oceans would freeze entirely, and our thin crust would be uninhabitable. Inside this warm, shielded environment, the biosphere runs its own internal recycling system. Through the carbon cycle, plants capture solar energy and perform photosynthesis, taking in carbon dioxide from the air and releasing the oxygen that humans and animals need for respiration. But individual plants and animals have limited lifespans. To keep this biological engine running, the system relies entirely on the continuous process of reproduction. In sexual reproduction, which spans everything from bees pollinating flowers to internal fertilization in mammals, specialized cells called gametes are created. These cells carry exactly half of a parent's genetic material, allowing traits from 2 distinct parents to combine. Look at this animation to see how those genetic instructions merge. When the two halves unite, they mix in different ways, introducing small, unique variations into the offspring's code. This process generates diversity rather than identical clones. That variation is what allows whole species to adapt, evolve, and survive as the planet's conditions slowly change over time. This graphic illustrates what happens when we disturb that balance. For millions of years, the remains of plants and animals have been buried in the crust, storing carbon. By rapidly extracting and burning these fossil fuels, we are releasing massive amounts of that stored carbon, artificially thickening the thermal lining of our atmosphere. This enhanced greenhouse effect traps excess heat much faster than the planet can handle. The rising temperature melts polar glaciers, raises sea levels, and drives extreme weather patterns like prolonged droughts and severe floods. A rapidly shifting climate destroys natural habitats, which directly impacts the biosphere. When species can't adapt fast enough, populations decline, breaking the interconnected food chains the entire system relies on. Scientists refer to this interconnected failure as the triple planetary crisis. It is a combination of climate change, the rapid loss of biodiversity, and severe pollution of our air, water, and soil. By overloading those delicate trace gases, we are effectively disabling our own life support system. But because we caused the damage, we also have the agency to fix it. We've done it before. When scientists discovered chemicals were destroying the ozone layer, global leaders signed the 1987 Montreal Protocol to ban them. Today, the ozone layer is slowly recovering. We are applying that same principle of global cooperation to the thermal layer. Through treaties like the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement, nations have committed to cutting greenhouse gas emissions to limit global warming. The goal is to leave fossil fuels behind and scale up renewable energy like solar and wind power. By combining cleaner energy with sustainable farming and forest conservation, we can stop overloading the atmosphere and allow the natural carbon cycle to restore its balance. When you look at our planet suspended in the vast darkness of space, the reality of our position becomes clear. We are living on a biological island in a radiation-filled void, with nowhere else to go. The continued survival of the biosphere depends on the stability of these interconnected layers. As the only crew on board, we are entirely responsible for maintaining the balance that makes life possible.